Welcome back once again to DAZN MMA. Sean O'Connell, Dan Hardy, and I'm very excited because, Dan, I get to make a trip soon to your part of the world. Newcastle, England, playing host to our very first ever Professional Fighters League Europe card. Now, we went to Europe last year. We went to the UK last year, but this is PFL Europe. This is a feeder league. It's its own season where European prospects try to earn a spot on the regular season roster in the PFL. They'll fight their way toward a European championship. If they win the European championship, they get the invite and an opportunity to chase $1 million in a PFL regular season. So the 2023 European roster, all hoping to be on the 2024 PFL global roster. And it begs the question, who should we be watching? Who should we be most looking forward to? Who's actually going to be a factor once they get to that main roster? You're more familiar even than I am with a lot of these prospects. Let's start. Who do you think is a fighter to watch in PFL Europe?
Well, the first name that comes to mind, because he'll be making his PFL debut on the Berlin card, is Dominic Wooding, former champion, Cage Warriors, very, very fast, very, very skilled striker, head kick knockouts, flying knee knockouts. And I feel like, I had a conversation with him a few weeks ago about his opportunity with the PFL. He feels like this is now his time to show people what he's capable of. He's had an up and down career, turbulent career, always felt like he was not necessarily treated like the superstar that he feels he is. And, signing with the PFL, he feels like he's got his opportunity now. And honestly, of all the fighters I've seen, he has this presence about him, this calmness within his craft that makes him very, very dangerous for all the bantamweights on the roster.
I'm going to cheat a little bit here with my first name because he's right now, so far, not been named to one of our PFL Europe cards. Okay, but he is a European. He's an Irishman out of SBG headquarters, right? Training with Peter Queally and Conor McGregor and some of these guys. Nathan Kelly just competed in week six of our PFL Challenger Series, okay? He's on a 7-fight win streak, bunch of knockouts, but he took down a wrestler and submitted him in the first round. Arm triangle choke. He's rounding out his game. He started his career 0-2, stuck it out, and he's won 7 in a row. He's young, he's talented, and more importantly, he's dedicated to the game. Talking to him in the post-fight interview, what's the plan? What are you going to do? We're in Orlando, Florida. You're going to stick around? You're going to go to Disney? He was like, no. I'm back to the gym on Monday, right? That's the kind of hunger you need if you're going to compete in the PFL regular season. Now, like I said, I cheated a little bit because he so far has not been named to the PFL Europe roster, but I am going to say our final PFL Europe event is taking place in Dublin. So it just makes sense that you would have the young man showcasing his talents there. That's my first name, and it's a cheat. I think you and I might agree on this second one. I always focus in on the light heavyweights because that's the division I competed in for the bulk of my career. Smooth Simeon Powell, who we saw fighting in a showcase bout, a couple of showcase bouts actually last year. This kid's got unlimited potential in the sport of mixed martial arts. He's got all the physical tools. He's tall, he's long, he's incredibly athletic. He's precise with his strikes, which is something that somebody like me just doesn't even understand. Smooth Simeon Powell out of the UK, I think is an eventual champion in our sport. It might take some time, but nothing is standing in his way except his own motivation.
I agree. He's a smart kid. He knows exactly where he's at in his career, so he's putting the work in to make sure that he's continually improving. I was watching him sparring a couple of weeks ago down at GB Top Team. He's got Brad Pickett and Ash Grimshaw there, two really, really good coaches that are making sure that he's getting the work in, he's improving his skills everywhere. And the truth is, he's just beating up his sparring partners to the point when they're having to bring more people in from other gyms. Most people just can't deal with him, with his height and his reach, the tools he's got, his physicality, as well as, living up to his nickname as Smooth. Like, he glides through the air with flying knees like no one I've ever seen of that size. He's a scary individual. And as a light heavyweight, he's got physical attributes that you would compare to someone like a John Jones, and he's still growing into his body, which is terrifying. I agree. I think he's going to be a champion very soon, and I think that we're going to see him really arrive in this European season of the PFL.
Yeah, he's 6'5" with a 7-foot reach, right? I mean, he's got crazy attributes. Stylistically, he doesn't have the wrestling of John Jones. I equate his length to what we saw from the best version of Alexander Gustafsson, although he is smoother than Gus was. So yeah, I mean, when you're early in your career and you're already stirring echoes of those types of talents at 205 pounds, I watch him and I say, you know what? I think I retired at the right time from the light heavyweight division. The guy's a monster. But like you said, taking things at the right pace. So in 2024, I expect him to be on the PFL roster. I would honestly be surprised if he doesn't win the light heavyweight situation in PFL Europe and take home the 100 grand for that, and then get the invite. But there are some tough other guys that are challenging here. And then another fighter, because we're going to go with kind of our top 3 European prospects. Dakota Ditcheva, let's be honest, this woman is a nightmare, because when you come from a prolific striking background, her mother, a world kickboxing champion, and she, from a very young age, along with her brothers, raised in that realm, raised in the striking arts, right? Sometimes you don't have really like the full game, the full dog in you to be a mixed martial artist. She absolutely does. And we've only seen brief glimpses of it because she just isn't, she's so much better, so much more athletic, physically superior to her opponents that like people aren't ready to challenge her yet. Her clinch work is just devastating. Ugly for an opponent to have to absorb some of those knees. Dakota Ditcheva is a big time problem.
She is absolutely, not only with her, her technical skills as a striker, but with her range management as well. I mean, what, she 5'10" for a flyweight, and I've been speaking to her strength and conditioning coach. This is the first time she's really properly invested herself in S&C for any training camp. Like, that's terrifying, because she's been manhandling people in the clinch without an S&C foundation. And from what I'm hearing from her coach, she's progressing very quickly. She's growing into her frame very quickly. I think she's going to be problematic for everybody she faces. And the way that she flows through her strikes, stitching knees to the body on the ends of her combinations, like, you feel like she's 5 meters away with her reach, and then straight away she's closed you down and taken your breath away with a knee to the midsection. It's beautiful Muay Thai, and crossing over to mixed martial arts and being able to apply it in a mixed martial arts setting, it is even more impressive for me. She's young, she's talented, she's undefeated, she's in the right gyms. She's training out of Manchester top team at the moment. She also trains at ATT as well. She's doing all the right things. If she just keep putting these wins together, she's gonna have a lot of money in her back pocket and a championship around her waist.
Most of us did not get to see Joanna Jędrzejczyk early in her mixed martial arts career, early in her martial arts career, period, right? You didn't get to see her when she was in her early 20s unless you were over in Europe, because the distribution wasn't there. The organizations didn't have big television deals. We saw her when she made it to the UFC, and she was still an unbelievable fighter and still a great champion, but that was more the finished product. PFL Europe is giving us an opportunity to see these young prospects, 25 years old, 23 years old, on the rise. You get to see them on a national, international platform as they're adding the skills to their game month by month, week by week, whatever. It's a real treat. It's a real pleasure. PFL Europe, it's intense because they're not only fighting for big money, bigger money than most of them have ever seen in their careers, but also fighting for an opportunity to chase the $1 million in a PFL regular season.
And that's the thing as well, is, their years laid out for them. They know if they win this next fight, they know when they're competing again. They know who's in their bracket. It's a really good opportunity for them to kind of lock in for a good 12 months, put the work in, and really achieve, something that's going to give them a good foundation for the future of their career.
PFL Europe begins March 25th in Newcastle, England. I'm excited. I don't get to go across the pond all that often. I'll actually be in the same room as Dan Hardy, which is the #1 treat. Fights be damned. I'm just going to give Big Dan Hardy a hug. That's all I care about.